This is Score.gg brought to you by Li Jiezhao. We're joined by FlyQuest Wild Turtle today. So unfortunately, today is your guys' first loss in the new season. However, FlyQuest is 2-1 right now, and you guys seem to be pretty strong. So the first question will be, from my perspective, FlyQuest has lead until 40 minutes. At one point, you guys have 7K economy lead, and you have entire one item ahead of Stixxay. Do you think FlyQuest should end the game quicker or sooner?
Yeah, 100%. I think that was a very embarrassing game from us to play because in practice we don't play like that, and I think because we messed up in the river a little bit in the early game where we had to blow flashes and just had to be a little bit scared. I think a lot of my teammates and I guess us as a team, we just ended up playing more passive, which is not our style. I think we we don't play games like that, and I just think that was a really embarrassing game to play, honestly. But I do think we have a lot to learn from that game, and going forward, that will not happen again.
I mean, it's new season.
Yes,
you guys still have time to adjust and learn from your mistakes. So the second question will be, FlyQuest traded the Drake for the first Baron. Do you think that's a questionable play?
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely a questionable play. But I think at that point of the game, we were very afraid of contesting Vision just because of how strong and tanky Sion was. And yeah, that's pretty much just a little bit of a comp difference later in the game where their champions are just a lot better at holding areas if they have the control of it. So it was really hard for us to just check Baron. And we obviously made the mistake first by going to the Dragon, but after that we couldn't really fix our mistake anymore.
Yeah, it's reasonable because JJ died many times last week to trying to ward or expand the visions. So he definitely don't want to do the same stuff over again. So do you think playing Draven in big stage is hard because not only you need to position yourself correctly to avoid all kinds of skill shots, but also you need to pick those axes to do more damages.
Yeah, for sure. But I do think Draven is a confidence champion, and I was definitely really confident in my Draven this game. I ended up getting the bot turret pretty early this game, and I had a pretty significant lead from bottom, I'd say. But it just comes back to the team thing where Draven's a champion that I don't think I have problems executing, but playing in a team comp, it can be a little bit risky just of how the way he plays is very predictable, right? He's very easy to... You just know the way Draven's going to play depending on the axis. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can tell you played the laning phase very aggressively, and you have Goat Lee. Mm-hmm. So one of Draven's strengths in lane is pushing the lane really quickly. Since turret plates give Goat before 14 minutes, do you think picking champions who can shove the lane really quickly is a necessity now?
It's definitely good to have, but I don't think it's a necessity. I think even if you lose a little bit of platings, but you have the better team comp. I think a great example of that was FlyQuest last week. We had very weak lanes and we were giving a lot of turret platings, but we had team cons where when it came to just 5v5, we would always win just because of how the champions were, Ornn, Galio, Camille, Kha'Zix, and just champions like those were really good at just accelerating the game. And we played a different style today where we played to pretty much just to win lane and potentially win game, but we ended up not snowballing the correct way, which was our downfall.
Okay, I see. So today's game is really slow paced. You have your first kill around 24 minutes. Do you feel frustrating when you're holding a lot of stacks but couldn't get a kill to cash it in?
Yeah, it was very annoying. I think this just comes back to our team problem. We were just really bad at controlling an area and fighting over it, and I think that really showed in our gameplay that it was very weak. It was just weak gameplay. So I think we should have been able to start a lot more fights, but we need to be actively talking about it.
Okay. So let's talk something outside of today's match. So patch 9.2 nerfed Aurelia and Aatrox pretty hard instead of those -5 movement speed.
Yeah.
Do you think this patch is buffing the ADC in a way?
Buffing ADC in a way. I think ADC carry is still pretty much in the same state. It's always pretty good, right? after a certain point, you get your items, you start doing a lot of damage. Like Ezreal is a really good champion that can do that. Kai'Sa, I think all the AD carries in the meta right now are pretty much just like insurance champions. So they're just very strong mid game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some player just gave out traditional AD carries, and they play mage bot lane like Victor or maybe Cassiopeia. What do you think of that? Do you think you'll play mage one day?
I still want to play mages, but the reason why a lot of teams can't play mages is because of how the draft works. It's very hard to draft a mage on the bot lane, and you can only draft a mage when you can win lane or if you have Cassiopeia, because Cassiopeia is banned every game and she's like very OP in the bot lane.
Yeah.
And I do think I think patch 9.3, I don't know if you know this yet, but they're buffing the crit items. So it's going to be a totally different meta now. Maybe Caitlyn can come back in the meta, maybe just champions that can auto more can come back in the meta.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can adjust for new patches and learn from like today's misplays.
Yes.
And what do you think of your tomorrow's match versus TSM?
Versus TSM. I think that's going to be a close match. I think we're going to go home and talk about how we're going to prepare for that match. I think we're going to come in with a way more solid game plan this time and execute it a lot better. I just think we'll play a lot better than we did today, because today was a very embarrassing performance. I think we made the game last a lot longer than it should have. I think CLG was not a very good team as well, because they weren't able to snowball, and actually they weren't. It was obviously good for them to come back in that game, but I don't think they did anything special. Like, we just kind of trolled ourselves, and that's why the game went that long, right?
Yeah, I mean, realizing your mistake is the first step to like improve. So that's all my questions. Thank you for your time, and good luck tomorrow.